እሱም በኋላ ከእንትን ካልከኝ በኋላ እናወራበታለን። ብቻችን ብናወራበት አይሻልም?
ለተማሪዎቹማ ፎር ደ ክላስ እንትን ማድረገው ኢንከሬጅ ማድረገው ላይክ ነው ክላሱ ላይ ጥያቄውን ብታመጣው ለሁሉም እንትን ይኖረዋል።
ምንድነው የኔ ጥያቄ ሪከርድ ታይፑ ላይ አፕዴት ለምሳሌ አንድ ኮለመን ለመጨመር ስትፈልግ በባለፈው ጽሁፍ ላይ ሳነበው ሁለት አይነት ናቸው። አንደኛው ዳይሬክትሊ ሂድ ዳታቤዙ ላይ የምትቀይረው አለ። ሁለተኛው ደግሞ ዳውንሎድ አድርገህ ኤክስፒ ብለህ የምትጨምረው ነገር አለ።
ሲዲቲ ነው የምትለኝ?
ሲዲቲ ላይ ማለት ነው።
ሲዲቲ የለም እዚህ ላይ ሪከርድ ታይፕ ላይ ነው የምትለኝ? ራይት ነው
ሪከርድ ታይፕ ላይ አድርገህ ማለት ነው። እና ሁለተኛው ጽሁፉ ላይ አንተ ከላከው አንዳውቱ ላይ ትንሽ ግራ ገባኝ። ሜቢ እሱን መጨረሻ ላይ ካገኘን ብታሳይ።
ኦኬ አይ ቲንክ አይ ሲ ዋት ዩ ሚን though ሶ እንትን ላይ ነው እዚህኛው ዶክመንት ላይ ነው የምትለኝ? ራይት
ዶክመንት ላይ ግን የደረስንበት አለ። ለዛ ነው ሆልድ ያደረኩት።
ያ ሜቢ ዩ ኖ we're not actually covering that let me see የትኛው ጋር እንደሆነ ፔጅ ስንት ላይ እንደሆነ ታስታውሳለህ?
ወይ ፕሪንት አድርጌዋለሁ።
ላይክ እንትን ላይ እንትን የምትለው ላይክ ነው ኤክስኤስዲ ፋይል ዳውንሎድ አድርገህ የምታስተካክለው አለ።
እሱን ዳውንሎድ አድርገህ ኤክስኤስዲ ኤሌመንት አለ፣ አኖቴሽን አለ፣ አፒያ ፎሎ
so that actually deprecate ሆኗል on this current version, right? So CDT እና data store አንማርም እና so even on the environment, so we don't have like CDT. Can there is if there is one CDT, I'll show you like what XSD means, right? Like actually there is one like on Intel. So if there is any data type, so like if after some time, right? So the user ask you to add like a new column, right? So this is like on the old application, okay? So if the company has already the application with the CDT, if it's a new application, if you are actually start developing starting from like 24.4, right, version 24.4, then you will not worry about it because you'll worry about only record type. But when you join, like there may be like some CDTs, right, custom data types. Just for example, like this, right? So for repair item, table in oranal. So this table on the back end, right, we have like energy field in order. So in case like if there is one field added, right? So maybe let's say item price, right? Item price field ከዳታቤዝ መጨመር ብንፈልግ, right? So once you created the CDT, so there is a way, right? So there is a way like you can do it. Actually, you can download from XSD, right? So there is a download XSD file. So XSD is nothing like X annotation for XML schema annotation in Lowland. So like if you open this guy, sorry. So this is this is how it looks like, right? So on the back end, that specific CDT, when you build it, like when you create that CDT, it has this kind of like XML schema definition language, right? So this schema definition language is kind of like same thing. Like for example, like if you take this, like there is sequence here, right? From here and here, that's actually for the sequence, right there, right? So for the sequence, we are actually like saying like this is the field name and then this is the field name on the back end. So our table is on the database side, right? On the any database side, like it can be like Postgres, it can be MySQL, it can be Oracle, right? So this sequence is actually we're gonna specify what is the type of the field like map to like from the source, right? ከሶርሱ ላይ ያለውን ማፕ እንዴት ነው የምናደርገው የሚለውን የምናይበት ነው። like ለምሳሌ let me show you here. So structure. So ከላይ schema ስታዩት like it's all the data types will have like this schema, like this schema configuration XML or something, W3 or information ይኖረናል። Type name, right? Whatever the type name የከፈት ነው CDT name is going to be specified here, and the Appian annotation table, right? Add table, right? If you see this add table, that means like annotation add table is ይሄ CDT repair item የሚለው CDT create ያደረግነው የትኛውን ቴብል ጋር ላይ ሪሌትድ ነው ወይስ ነው አታችድ ነው የሚለውን ቴብል የምትሏ ትነግረናለች ማለት ነው። ሶ ኢፍ ዊ ሉክ ኢንቱ ላይክ በዚህኛው ቴብል ራይት በዚህ ገብቼ ወደ ዳታቤዝ ላይ ቴብል ብፈልግ በዚህ ኔም I will find that table ማለት ነው right. So if I want to add like a new field right on this table, for example, like if I go here and go to the cloud, go to the cloud database. Let me see if I see that table there, right? So I'm gonna search it right here. Okay, the table is not there, right? Because it's not on my schema. So my schema is W2917, right? So, but if there is a table right there, right, on that specific schema, even like it's fine. Like for example, like this table, right? If I have this table, and then if I want to add like one more field, right, and then I add like repair item. So here I come to this CDT, right? Downloaded XSD file, right? So if you see one of them, right, this ID field, right, repair ID field, right, the first line is actually on the CDT, right? So the element we see on the XSD, on the CDT or custom data types. So this is the name, repair item ID, and if it is like nullable or it's not nullable, right? So it's nullable is true, so it will allocate right here as well, right there. Nullable is false right there, right? And type XSD int, right? So what is the data type of that specific field, right? It's integer, but on the back end it's kind of like int, right? It's kind of integer, but it's same thing as int, right? For example, let me take here some different data types, okay? Date data type. So for this one, this table has like this field, like CDT has this field like name as start and nullable true type state, right? The same way on that table, like on the database table, I have like, you see the source is Appian JPA at column start, right? So it's actually kind of like related to the same start column, and the definition is actually dead. And just wanna show you here. Actually, this one is actually a good example right there, right? So this is a mechanic, whoever like the mechanic CDT data type. So in Appian we have like string, right? The text that's actually also correspond with string, the type. On database we have like a varchar 255. So if you want to add like, for example, like I added like price item, right? Like item price. So that is actually a number or decimal, right? That's fine. I'm gonna copy this guy. The same thing. Like I'm gonna copy this like from the XSD. It's gonna be the same. Like I'm gonna paste this right here, and I'm gonna update the name, right? So the name is actually item price, right? And the type I'm gonna change to integer, and the same thing correspond የሚያደርገው የዳታቤዝ ቴብል ፊልድ ስሙን I'm gonna type it here as well, item price, and it's gonna be ENT, right? Integer. So once I have this guy, that's fine. Like, so that's the only thing just I need to do. Like, and I'm gonna save this XSD, and I will come here and I'm gonna create a new version from XSD. Right, if I click here and then like upload that specific whatever download thing, right, and then I'm gonna open this and then create a new version. So but now like that table, we don't have that item price field, right, on the database side, right? It's automatically scanning for virus. Once it's finished the scanning, so this button will be enabled, like create new version. And definitely we'll see like some error because there's nothing there, right? So data store verification is passed, but there is nothing related. Okay, let me create a new version, right? So if I create like new version, so my data store actually is gonna be broke, right? So it will verify, and automatically will give you the new version. But this one, maybe it will automatically create the new field on the backend. But this should show me that the item price field is not actually on the data store, right? So I just added like item price right there, right? So because it's actually on a fly or something, so that's why like it's allow me to create. But on the real data store, if you don't have that like specific field, it has to it will create the cd the repair sorry the new version, but it will give you like a warning message. So the data store will not be will not be like modified or like published. So you have to make that change. Like first we have to add the new field on the table, verify, and then publish it again. But yeah, this is how you can add like from the XSD. And like once you added like item price, I changed the data type to integer. So this is how you do it. Yeah, that's a good question, Amara. So yeah, so bring any question like እንደዚህ አይነት ጥያቄዎችን on the class, so we can discuss cover ማናደርጋቸው ነገሮችን cover እናደርጋለን። ግልጽ ነው? All right. Any other question, guys? Okay, so if you don't have any question, so let's start actually working on so on last class, right? So we cover like some of the objects, right? Appian design object, say like data objects. Cover like now just what we discussed right now, is actually data type, custom data type. So how to create a custom data type from XSD, right? But there is also another ways to do it as well. But that I will not actually spend like more time on this one XSD thing CDT, because kind of like a duplicate like Appian drop ያደረጋቸው ያሉት ነገሮች ናቸው እና so it's good to know, but like you don't have to like worry about like data types and CDT. Like you'll worry about it like once you are actually on the project. If the project uses CDT, then we will start like worrying about it. But now like Appian things like using like data types and data store is not necessary, right? So they kind of like deprecate this part and focus on record type. So I want you to focus on record type, master it. Then if you master record type, then Appian is easy. All right. And we also cover like process objects, how to orchestrate things like on a record type, right? So how to update record, existing record on record type, how to update, how to add like a new list of records on the system. So there is two types of like related actions. Like one is a record list action, one is related actions, right? So record list action will help us to add to create like a new record, and then it will add up on the list. And the related action will help us to act on the record, right? So it will help us to update the specific record. So and recordoች ቢኖሩን like የተለያዩ recordoች ቢኖሩን so አዲስ ሪከርድ አድ ለማድረግ ብንፈልግ we will need record list action configure ማድረግ አለብን. But if we need to update, like if you want to act on it, right? So የሆነ ዳታ አለን አክት ማድረግ እንፈልግ update ማድረግ እንፈልግ delete ማድረግ እንፈልግ, we need to configure that process, like in orchestrate that process in a related action field of like record type ማለት ነው። የአክሽን ሴክሽን ላይ ሄደን related action ላይ የሚለው ሴክሽን ላይ ኮንፊገር ማድረግ እንችላለን። so we can configure like manually configure ማድረግ እንችላለን or ደግሞ automatically generate እንዲያደርግ ያደርጋል። So the only reason actually for now, like just try to generate it from Appian, and I'm gonna manipulate some of the fields there, so you kind of like master የሚደረግ ነገር ነው. But in the future, so I will actually recommend you like to create process model from scratch, like manually. So that way, like like why you are actually picking each node, right? So we'll practice that as well. So you'll have like some understanding how this works. And we also cover like the process report, the difference between the process model and process report. Process model is for kind of like graphical layout and orchestrating the workflow of the business or the company. The process report is actually will help us to extract information from actively running processes, right? So the process runs like for some configured some interval, right? Sometimes like we configure the process model for to stay in active, like or after completion to stay active for 7 days or 3 days. So if that is active or if it's not archived or if not deleted, so the process report will help us to extract information from the process model, and we can create like our kind of like a report or kind of like dashboard uh, backed by the process, right? So all the data comes from the process, and then we can display we can display those information on a dashboard, so the managers will know like, okay, actively running processes have this kind of like information. So it's kind of like way of actually like once we actually store the information on the database, we can access it, right? But there are some running processes, right? So it's an active process. We don't have that the full information on the backend on the database side. So that's why like the process report will help us, even if the data is not in the database, but we can still access it from the process side, right? From the process instance, and then display it somewhere like on somewhere else, right? So we can create like a dashboard or interface, and then we can display there. Robotics activities, we can use like different technology for robotic automation. There are a lot like UiPath, Blue Prism, chatbot. Like there is a lot of technology. We can create a robot, right? We can kind of we call them like bots. Once you have configured all those bots, we can call that bots in Appian using this robotic processes smart service, and we can just use them to automate and manual and repetitive tasks, right? All right. And also like we cover like some kind of like the user object. So user object discuss like user object, it will help us to for the integers to interact with the Appian, right? So kind of like an interface for the user, so they can put their information on the form, and kind of like an intake form, right? So they will put then the name or address and every information in the interface. We can collect that information and then save it in the backend. So kind of user objects ሪፈር የሚያደርጉት like ከዩዘሩ ጋር ፊት ለፊት የምንገናኝበት ኢንተራክት የሚያደርግበትን እንትኖች like አፒያን ላይ ሄደን ስናይ ዩዘሮች ላይ ኤኒ ቤዚክ ዩዘሮች እኛ like on the backend ራን የሚያደርግ ፕሮሰስ ነው ያለ ምናምን, right? Because we have like system admin access, right? Kind of developer access ስላለ ማለት ነው። but basic ዩዘሮች they will see like from the site, right? site ላይ እንደሚያዩት ዳሽቦርድ ያሉ ፎርም ያሉ, right? ፎርም የሚሞሉት ምናምን something, right? ሶ እነሱን ፎርሞች ላይ ከዩዘር ጋር ኢንተራክት የሚያደርጉበት like ሪፖርት ሊሆን ይችላል ወይም ደግሞ ኤኒ ፎከስ የሆኑ እንትኖች ኢንፎርሜሽኖች ማየት የሚያዩበት ቦታ like ወይም ኦብጀክቶቹን በአፒያን ክሬት የምናደርጋቸው ካታጎራይዝ የምናደርጋቸው as a user object, user design object እንላቸዋለን። so under that like user object we have like interface, report, and site in portal, right? Also we can include like tempo here as well, kind of because tempo is kind of focused area, but we are actually leaving tempo behind and ወደፊት እየሄድን ያለ ነው። so that's why like we need to focus on like interface, report, and site, right? Interface is nothing. You can create like interface object to get like some information from the integer, right? integer ላይ information ማግኘት እንፈልጋቸው ለምሳሌ about the applicant information like username, first name, last name, email, anything like ከዩዘሮቹ ፊል አውት እንዲያደርጉልን የምንፈልገው ፎርም ካለ we can create like a form, kind of like a beautiful form, right? So we can display there, so they can put that information once they just fill out that information and click submit. Then we're gonna take out from that. Just we will have like an orchestrated process. We'll pass those information to the pros model, and the process will manipulate those information, the data, and then we're gonna save it to the database, right? And a report is same as interface, but a report's kind of like it will give you some kind of like aggregated information, right? So from the name, right? So we can get some information from the backend, from the database side, aggregated, create a different kind of charts, right? Like kind of bar chart, column chart, or you can create like a pie chart information, right? So we also on the report, so you can like through days of like different charts, create pictures. A report offers like high level of overview for aggregated information, right? So reports is mainly for the managers, right? So the managers, they need, for example, like how many items are created in this month, right? How many items are actually created like every single day. So we can create a report for the managers. Like he don't need to get the detail about the case or anything, but like he want to know how much, how many reports, how many cases are actually created every day, how many are created in every month, how many are created like in average, right? So that kind of information we can give him as a report, like in a form of chart, in a form of grid, or in the form of picture, right? And from by overseeing that specific like chart and grid, so he will get some kind of aggregate information and kind of like a report, right? So a report is space data like from task, right? From actively running task, from the actively running process, we can pull some information about task and display this much active tasks are actually waiting on the queue, right? So the managers will know like, okay, if there is too much tasks on the system, he will ask for the employee, to focus on their work and then complete those tasks, because there is a lot of pending tasks on the system. We can get like that information, like once you actually have some information on the backend, we can get as a source, as a record, right? So from our record we can display, we can create like some kind of like dashboard for the manager, so they can review this stuff, right? And reports can be all the source, right? So we can connect from the different source, like from Salesforce, from anything, and try to aggregate those information, make them like just make things like displayed in a chart, create picture, kind of like in a useful format, right? So the managers will understand that information. So እዚህ ጋር ላይ ፎከስ አድርጋችሁ እንድታውቁ ፈልገው like interface እና report is kind of same thing, right? So like interface, like inputዎችን የምንወስድበት read only, for example, like we can create like read only versions እና even if like in this report we're gonna use actually interface, right? Interface ላይ ነው like reportዎችን የምንሰራቸው, like dashboard and everything. Then once we have that, so we're gonna create that like in the inside the report. So from that reports ቀጥታ መውሰድ እንችላለን ማለት ነው። so from the site ላይ ክሬት እናደርግ ባለፈው እንዳሳየኋችሁ ከአራት የተለያየ ቦታ ሳይትን ክሬት ማድረግ እንችላለን። one is from the action is nothing from the pros model, ሁለተኛ from record list, ሶስተኛ from interface, and አራተኛ from report, right? so እነዚህ አራት ኦብጀክቶች ካሉን ሳይት ላይ as a tab ክሬት ማድረግ እንችላለን። So last time we created like one site, right? So the first tab is actually created through this vendor record list, right? So we'll try to create like one from interface, one from action, and one from report, right? So all right, so today we're gonna focus work on the rule object. So what is a rule object, right? What is a rule object, and try to understand like what it's kind of like what each object actually try to do, right? I will try to make some example out of it, and in case like when you are actually working on your project as well, I will suggest you to to go through like all the rule object, and if you need any kind of like guidance on this one, like just let me know before you start anything. But it's kind of like it will help you on automating like your stuffs, like just manipulating your information, like manipulating your data, and just give you some kind of like a whatever like you need as a dictionary or a map or something. The outcomes, the data will be like transformed, and you'll have some kind of outcome in the form of any kind of like dictionary or data types or map file. So in this rule object, this is rule based and used as an expression to reference specific values and perform a complex operation or queries, right? This is actually where we are actually doing most of the code. Most of the code actually in Appian is actually on the rule, right? So if we want to do some kind of like complex logic, right? So run this, right? Just add, for example, like add 3 numbers, and finally just add 3 numbers, subtract 5, and just finally whatever the information you got, just give me the value, right? So I will try to like create that rule. For example, like just we're gonna create like a simple expression rule. So we're gonna pass, like I'm gonna create actually two one decision and one expression rule to show you like we're gonna pass 2 number and how to like add those numbers on the system, right? So in this rule object there is 3. So if you see like the color is actually purple. If you see on the Appian designer, all the design objects with this purple color we categorize as like a rule object. From here, like with the constant, you see like everybody I think knows like this symbol, right? A pi, right? The pi is actually a universal constant, right? It's 3.14 or something value. So that's why actually they use like a pi there. So constant is nothing. It's gonna hold a single value or a list of values for us, right? And instead of, for example, assume like you want to use some kind of name, right? All right. Let's go here and let me create. All right. So, for example, like this is 1, right? This is 1. Data type is actually number integer, right? So also like I want to use I want to display I have like 5 running processes, and then I want to use like this number 3.75, this number to display everywhere, right? So on each different 5 processes. So what I have to do is actually like we have to, when we create a process model, I have to type this actually like 5 place, right? So the first place I created that process model, for example, let me open this guy. For example, like we have this process model, right? I want to add some kind of like a logic compensation, I want to run some logic like in here, right? So on this process, I want to store some value like 3.75, right? So I'm gonna store like 3.75 on the system. Sorry. All right, so let me refresh this page again. So here, this is only one process model, right? But assume like we have like 10 different process model, like to perform different action. So on each process model, so there is a logic to add this number, right? 3.75. So ቪዥዋላይዝ እንድታደርጉ ትፈልጋለሁ። ሶ 10 ፕሮሰሶች አሉ፣ ራን የሚያደርጉ 10 ፕሮሰሶች አሉ። አንደኛው ፕሮሰስ ላይ እያንዳንዱ ፕሮሰሶች ላይ እያንዳንዱ ፕሮሰስ ላይ እንትን sorry just kick me out. So አስር የተለያዩ ራን የሚያደርጉ ፕሮሰስ አስሩም ፕሮሰሶች ላይ 3.75 የሚል ቁጥር አዳረጋለሁ ኤኒ ሎጂኮች ላይ ኦኬ ሶ ያንን ሆልድ እንዲያደርግልኝ ስለምፈልግ ያንን ቁጥር ሆልድ እንዲያደርግልኝ ስለሚፈልግ እንትን ላለኝ ሶ ላይክ እያንዳንዱ ላይ ላይክ ነው 10 ፕሮሰሶች አሉኝ ሶ 10 ፕሮሰሶች ላይ 3.5 እያደረኩኝ የሆነ ቫልዩን ስቶር አደርጋለሁ ሶ ዳት አት ዘ ኤንድ ኦፍ ዘ ዴይ ላይክ ነው በዛ 3.75 ኢንፎርሜሽን ካልኩሌሽን ሰራለሁኝ like so assume like we have like 20 or 10 different processes, right? And we're gonna type all those 3.75 right everywhere, right? Gonna open like that process. So let me create for example like let me open this process, right? This is one of the process. So we are actually adding this 3.75 on some of the specific field, right? Because that's actually constant, maybe like as a company, right? So when they calculate their profit, like if they have the annual profit is actually $1 million, so they have to multiply by 3.75 and some number, right? So we have to do like some kind of logic here, right? We are adding like script task and adding like that specific 3.75 number right here, right? And any number or any text field, any text, right? So if so now like we have like everywhere like 100 process. If you are actually doing this number addition or like multiplication or something in each process, so we have to go through like for example like there is a requirement change, so they say like the user come to you and they say, oh, so this year we want to make this update, right? So we are not actually multiplying our result by 3.75, so but instead we are actually multiplying by like 3.25. What you have to do, right? So it's in production, so like the list of all the process, like you have like 10 or 100, right? So the only option you have is actually updating those data, right? Like I have this on this process, I have 3.75, so I have to come here, I have to change it, right? to 5. Then right? So satisfy like integer chain. But I have to do it like 100 times, like if I have 100 process model, right? So the use of actually constant comes on this place, right? So constant is actually it will kind of help us to hold some specific static information like number or any kind of value hold in the Appian design object. So constant holds a single, right, literal value or a list of value. So you can add like list. I'm going to show you like how to add a list and how to use like a single value, right? So a constant allows you to define a value once and then use it in many places in any application. So this way I'm going to create one constant which holds like 3.75, and then I'm going to call this constant everywhere in my process. But like if they ask me like to change it to 3.75, instead of updating 100 process, I'm going to update only one constant. So አንዱ ኮንስታንቱን አፕዴት አደርገዋለሁ 100 ፕሮሰሶች ላይ አውቶማቲካሊ ሪፍሌክት ያደርግልኛል ማለት ነው። so it will help you like just like kind of repetitive የሆኑ ነምበሮች like የሚደጋገሙ የማይቀየሩ ነምበሮች ወይም ቫልዩዎች ካሉ it's better to create a constant for them, right? constant is nothing, let's say constant የማይቀየር value ማለት ነው, right? If we're going to hold a single value or a list of values, so if the value needs to be updated in a feature, it only needs to be updated in only one location. That's when we are actually working on real projects, right? So that's headache. Like most developers, they do is specifying like hard code value to like single valuation every process model load ያደርጋሉ. So it's kind of like a headache for the developers, like to troubleshoot, update those information, right? But like as a best practice, when you create a process model or any interface or anything, right? It can be like an interface, it can be in the process model. When you create that, and then if you think of that's actually a single value, or if you can create a constant for it, that's going to be the best practice. So now I'm going to show you like here, right? So 3.75, I'm going to create like a constant for it, right? So I'm going to create a constant. So to create a constant is actually simple. You can create like constant. So I want you to understand. So when you create a constant, like as a best practice, the nomenclature, right? It's always good to follow the nomenclature. When we create a constant, we always use uppercase, right? So kind of now I have a constant. I will say like integer. Because I want to store integer, right? And if it's a single value, that's fine. But if it's if I want to store like a list of values, I will say like array. But array is nothing, it's a list of number, right? But now like I'll show you like only one single value, and I'm gonna store profit margin something, right? And this is a number, and the value just to store is actually 3.75. Okay, so you can add like always good to have like a description, right? So this is gonna be actually number decimal, right? 3.75, right? So always good to have like store like 3.75 value to store something, right? So and I'm just create this guy. All right, so this is good, right? So if you see here, now I have this constant, I have this guy, it's actually 3.75, right? So this 3.75, it's 3.75, it's giving me 3.75. So instead of this, right? Instead of this, like if I use this constant, so in Appian, when you have a constant, you will use this, const bank, right? So in Appian, like it's this one calls a bank, the exclamation mark, right? We call them like const bank, right? Constant bank. So if you want to call something, we always use this bank, right? So now I'm actually calling that created constant, const bank, and the name of the constant. So the name of the constant is going to be this guy, right? So actually, you know what? I'll show you. Like you don't need to like paste everything, but like if you know like some word, right? For example, profits, right? Will give you like the name, right? So like automatically search argo. So now like I created this profit margin, and this is the constant, right? That I created. So if I see this guy, it will automatically hold the Aragon value setting 3.75, 3.75. So instead of like 3.75, I can use this constant in my process model, right? እዚህ ጋር 3.5 ብዬ ሴቭ እያደረኩ የነበረው so instead of just a hard code value save ከማድረግ I can use it here right there, right? It's gonna be 3.75, 3.75 in Yaman. So we have like 100 place, right? We can have like maybe 10, 20 process model use this constant. So if there is any change, right? If there is they come in and okay, please just make an update like real quick for us, just to this year like the margin profit is going to be 275 or 3.25, right? So what you have to do is actually you'll come here and then you're gonna update the value of the constant. So once you update this to 3.25, it will reflect everywhere, right? So that's it. And then you're gonna deploy this object to production. Then any profit margin calculations will be like by with this number 3.25, right? So so this is a single value, right? So we can also like have like an array, right? So we can have like a list value just to store here. So just give you an idea, like this is a single number, right? Like if you see here, this is a single number, right? I want you to understand, like, what is array, right? Array is anyone array, right? Array is nothing, it's a list, right? Array means like nothing, it's just a list, right? So one of the thing like on the programming world, so if you understand array, like you are actually dealing with only one single value or kind of like list of, right, group of people, right? ከአንድ ሰው ጋር ዲል የምታደርጉት ነገር አለ። like ለምሳሌ assume you are giving some kind of donation for one people, right, for one person, right? You give him like every day $100, right? So it's easy, right? Just you're gonna give him like $100, but you have like maybe 1,000 people kind of they need your help, right? Kind of like they wanna accept your donation, so you're gonna give like $100 for each person. So you are actually looping. You can kind of like handle like multiple people at the same time. So like one person is a single value. It's 1,000 people is kind of array, right? Array of people, right? So one is one person is a single value. 1,000 like people is actually array of people, right? So list of people. So that is just to understand, like, so you will have like for example, like one is it's a single value, right? It's a number integer. But if you deal with 1 and 2, right? For example, like if you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all right? 7 people, right? 7 single values, they form like one one array with 7 values, right? So so if you see here and then test this guy, so it will give us a list of numbers, right? It's an array of like 7 items, right? So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So the way like we handle this, right? For example, this is an array, right? So assume like እነዚያ like እንደ ሰው ብታስባቸው እና like maybe 1,000 ሰው ቢሆን or like 20% ቢሆን, and you want to give $100 አምስተኛ ተራ ላይ የቆመውን ሰውዬ, right? For like አምስተኛ ቦታ ላይ ያለውን ለመስጠት ፈልጎ ኦኬ አምስተኛ ያለ ይሁን ናና like ይሄን ብር ተቀበል, right? Like every 5 minutes 10ኛው ላይ 15ኛው ላይ you want to just get that information. or ለምሳሌ like okay አምስተኛው ላይ ያለውን ሰው ላይ ወይም አራተኛ ያለውን ሰው ለማግኘት ፈልግ, so I can easily just get like okay who is like on number 4, right? So I will get like 4, right? Index aragona like only shall get that 4, right? So this is like kind of like when we are actually doing array, so it's nothing, right? But what we are actually having an order, right? The order ነው የሚቀመጠው, so we can easily pick የመጀመሪያው ላይ የተቀመጠው ሁለተኛ ሶስተኛ አራተኛ አምስተኛ የሚለው ማለት ነው. So we can store like these things like in we can store them like in constant as well, right? For example, like this guy, whatever I created this, right? So it stores like only single value, right? It's gonna stores like single value like 3.15, right? So I want to add this is a single value, so it's return only 3.75 like with the number decimal, but I want to like multiple, like I want to store like multiple values in this array. Like instead of creating like multiple constant for each number, I want to create like one constant for multiple values, like list of values. In order to do that, like actually if you see here the checkbox array, right? It's multiple values to store multiple values. So if you click on that, if you click on that, then you will see the list of numbers. Like so actually the panel will change, right? So you can add list of numbers on this constant. For example, like we have like 3.25, right? Then I'm gonna add like 2.1, 4.5, right? 7.5, 8, 0.5.2, 8.9. So that's fine, right? So this list of numbers, right? List of digit numbers, like even like 5, and then it's gonna be like 4. Sorry, even number as well. So you can so like as an example, right? So previously, like we calculating the profit margin, right, from 3.75, right? And they have like different margins, like for each year, like for each leap year, or like for each 4 years, like the profit margins change. All right, so and then those listed values, like for example 3.75, 2.3, 4.5, right? You can store them like in one specific constant. So I just stored them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 values on this list, right? It's because the only thing I did is actually just I checked this box, right, and list of those numbers, like then if I save this, previously like there is only like 3.7, 3.25 value, right, on this constant. But now if I test this constant, right, so there is only like 3.5. Like if I test this guy, then I will see all the list of values, right? 3.25, 2.3, 4.5, right? Whatever the things, right? So I'm gonna store all those information on this, and so the business requirement for these 2 years is actually 3.25, right? So I can add like on the index whatever the value in like number 1, right? So at the place, like at place 1 is actually, we can index that information. We can index that information by using a curly brace, right? So we can with a header bracket, and then put like the first place, just get whatever on the first place, right? This will give me 3.25, right? What about like the next after 2 years? So they want to change it to 2.3 or something, right? So like for example, like they want to change it to 4th place, right? The 4th place, right? Then it will give me whatever the value placed on the 4th order, right? It's going to be 7.5. So constant, will help us to just hold a single value as well as a list of values, right? And it's easy to like, especially when you have like a company use hard code values like in multiple place, right? So that's actually a bad practice. Like if you have anything kind of like a constant and you are using it in a process model, in a interface, or everywhere, right? If you think of like if that constant can be replaced by a constant, so you have to go on that road, right? You have to create a constant and then store it somewhere, right? Because it's kind of like in the maintenance after like things will work fine, right? Things will work fine because hard code values, it's okay, right? You can store a hard code value. It's working as long as like as long as the process run whatever the activity configured that the process completes successfully. So we should be good. The only thing is actually when we leave a company. For example, I develop one process model. I know where to update these numbers, right? When there's a change on this number, I know where to go and then update this, right? Okay, because I'm familiar with the process. I work on that company for like 10 years. I know the in and out of the process, right? So if they make any update, like if they want any change, I'll go all the process and then update it, right? So I seem like I want to leave that company, and then you joined, right? You joined that company, so it's gonna be hard for you like to troubleshoot and then to fix all those things because you don't know like where to go and then fix those you change those hard coded values. But like as a good developer, if you create that constant, like when you join the company, you need to update only one constant, then you should be fine, right? So nothing will break on the system, kind of like there's nothing like incorrect information will be saved on the database, right? So that's the best practice. Like if you think of like anything like inconstant, like some kind of like constant value or something, just create a constant for it and then store it somewhere, right? Store it in the constant and refer your constant in any of the design object, right, in a process model or user interface. Right. Any question on the constant side? No question? ግልጽ ነው? All right. Now, okay, if constant is actually clear, it's a simple concept and actually very useful. All right. So now, like a decision, right? Decision is kind of same as like decision and expression rule. Little bit kind of like they have like same purpose, but they're kind of like different on like we're using like an expression rule for creating like different complex logic or something like that, but decision rule will help us grouping some kind of business rule, right? The business rule that answer like specific question based on input, right? For example, if someone puts 1 and 2, like if the so we create like a decision, we can create like a decision, just if someone add like 1, just return a simple example, okay? If everybody has ID, for example, like Iman or Raz, as Zanet, like we all have like a unique number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So if I add like 1, right, instead of adding like we're gonna create like a decision, we're gonna pass 1, and then whoever like associate with 1, like ID 1, we're gonna return like that specific value. Like for instance, Iman is like 1, all right? So if I put like 1 on that decision, it will return me like Iman. If I pass 2, it will return me like Rodat. If I pass 3, it will return like Nes, right? So decision is nothing. It's a kind of a grouping of business rules that answers a specific question based on input, right? So it can be like multiple kind of we can create like a complex decision rule to identify like to store like some kind of like business questions, and you pass some input and then you get some kind of output from that specific decision, and then you can use it somewhere, right? Unlike expression rule, right? So unlike expression rule, which primarily calculates or manipulates data, right? So that is actually the expression rule case, right? So expression is actually mainly calculating and manipulating information, manipulating data. Decisions are the best used to encapsulate complex business specific logic, right? If you have like some kind of like complex business specific logics, right? So like if I add like 1 and 2, just figure out like where 1 and 2 is equals when we pass, like for example, we pass x is equals to 1 and y is equals to 2, right? Assume like x equals to 1 and y is equals to 5, then the value returns actually z, right? Whatever the value state like in z. Some kind of like a business logic we can create, like if you want to, so you can create a decision and you pass like two values, x and y, and then based on that x, y, you can do some calculation, whatever like the logic, and then you get some value or output. But expression rule is a statement that evaluates to return a value. Like it's kind of like expression rule is kind of the same as Appian function. There's a lot of Appian functions built, right? But expression rule is kind of an Appian function, but Appian gave for the developers to create their own function, right? So whatever like in the Appian function, there is a lot of function, right? A bank is not null. A bank, if is null or something, just to check like if some value, if there is any value, like for example, like here, right? So there is a lot of constant. Like for example, if you see here, Appian is a bank, Appian functions, right? For example, FN banks, Appian function, FN bank is null, right? So all these functions is actually created like in Appian, right? So is null, right? For example, is null, right? So is null for example, it's 3, like 3 is null, right? This function return for us, it will gonna check, there is an is not, right? As I just type like if bank is not, right? So it's kind of like a single word, right? But on the back end, there is a Java code running, right? So like when they built Appian, so the back end they actually created as a Java, right? So it's kind of like easy for us. Like if a ban is null, it's true, false, right? So it will return as false, right? Get us false because 3 is not null, right? So it has some value. If I pass no, right, and I'll get some true value, right? So I can't actually manipulate this. I can't update this function, right? But if if I think of, okay, if there's a value passed, right? If there is a value passed, then check and then just return this value or something. Then over this Appian function, if I want to create like my own function, and this time expression rule will come into place, right? So I can create expression rule to use Appian function as well as to add like more logic on it and then get some kind of information. I will create something for you, right? But now let me go and ahead and then it's maybe like discuss on this like decision, right? So decision is nothing like decision is a grouping of business rules that have a specific question based on input, right? Expression rule is an statement that evaluates to return a value, right? So you pass some values in as an input, it will evaluate all the information there, and kind of like they transform the information that do some composition on the logic, do some transformation on the data, and do some kind of like core logic and give you some kind of output. So on this one, it's much as like an expression function or like an Appian function. They are stored like expression that works like an Appian function, but except that users can create their own rule inputs to use the pass a parameter, right? So we can create our own expression rule. We can create as many parameters as possible. You can pass different parameters as an input, and you just pass. You can pass like a single values. You can pass like an array. You can pass like a CDD. You can pass like a record type to that expression rule. Do the mathematics right there, right? To do all the calculation logics and everything, and then finally return some value, right? So we're gonna do. I'll try to explain that in a simple example, and so let me create like one decision rule, right? So let's create like a decision rule, right? So all the rule objects right there, right? This AI skill, all the rule objects, right? So expression rule, AI skill, decision rule, constant, translation, right? All these are actually rule object. AI skill, we're not actually covering AI skill, right? So I don't want to confuse you on the AI skill side, right? So AI skill is nothing, but this is where actually Appian use artificial intelligence, right? This is on the AI skill. We can classify document, we can classify email, we can extract information from document. We can pass, we can upload a PDF or any kind of document. We can extract information, with the key pair values. We can match and then get some values from it, extract it and then store it in a record, right? Also, like if there is an email come to Appian system, right? So with this AI skill, it's kind of like we can easily categorize the emails, like if the email comes to HR, if the email comes to sales or something. So based on some logic, this is Appian built like AI skill. Don't worry about it. Like when you go, when you are actually, I'll try to show you something if time permits, but like kind of AI. The only part Appian used the AI artificial intelligence part is actually using like the AI skill. Most companies they don't use AI skill, but some new companies like new techno like kind of like a new project, right? Kind of a new project, they use AI skill. So I work more than 9 years on Appian, right? So the only time I get a chance to work on this AI skill is actually on my last project. because they are actually creating the new application, so they want to use like all the Appian new features. So that time like I get a chance to work on this AI skill, but in most companies they want to use it, but it's still actually they don't have actually that business use case to create the AI skill for them. But AI skill is actually categorized as role object, like expression, AI skill, decision, and consent, and translation state as well are kind of role objects. So like let me create like a decision here. I'm gonna create decision, and then I'll say, let me give it like test decision. Okay, that's fine. Well, I'm gonna test decision. So Appian feature, it's good. Like if you pass like on the rule object, right? If you create a rule with the same name, it will tell you like, okay, you created a rule or something, right? All right. So here, all right. So there is two inputs, right? You can create like multiple input, right? If I pass, right, the simple example, right? Now I want to actually I don't want like input two, right? I just need only like on this rule I pass only one, right? And then I want to get like one result, right? I need to like for example, like if you want to do like multiple thing, right? So you cannot like multiple inputs here. You can pass the inputs on this guy, right? So you can pass it. You're gonna calculate all this, and then you get whatever like match, then this output result, right? So whatever the output you put it right here, so it will be the result of that decision thing, right? So so you can create like complex thing, but you just do some steps. But like let's do like let me delete this input one, input two. I don't want input two. Just I want to play with only one thing, right? So now if I pass this guy and if I pass one, then I return like human. Okay. If I pass two, it's gonna be pass three, right? I'm actually reading your name from my here, right? So right, so you want to add new role, right? Passive 5, it's gonna be a matter, otherwise just pass that. Okay, so now I just created this rule, okay, this decision rule. It's a simple rule. Like if I pass this rule, and then I know like if I don't I assign like a number for each user, right? For example, like if I pass 1, right, so I should expect this is actually testing my result right there, right? If I test this, okay, it will actually come here, and then it's validate number 1, right? And then returns like Iman, right? So you can just the output can be like anything, right? So the output, like we can configure the output and then just do something right there, right? So we can do like a lot of complex thing decision on the decision tree, but a simple one, right? For example, like if I don't pass anything, right? Like, for example, I have 1 2 3 4 5, right? But if I pass 10, okay, it's fine. It's all right. I'm gonna pass like 2, right? So I'm gonna show you like if I pass 2, then it will validate first one. It's not true, right? 1 is not true, but anything like on 2, then RODAS, then it's actually pick me like RODAS, right? Same way, like if I pass 4, and as that, right? It will validate like from here. Did I click on test? Yeah. So it will validate like, okay, so whatever the input, I just added like this input is actually 4, it's 4 is equals to 4, then whatever the outputs, I got an assignment right here. If it's 5, it's going to be Amara, right? What if I put 10? I don't have 10, right? Mimokral. Right? Yeah, so if I pass nothing, like if it doesn't match, right? If I pass like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever like corresponding value, it will actually turn the output there. But if it doesn't match, that is else, right? If whatever the input is equals to 1 in 1, if 1 is equal to recursiveness, like if is equals to 4, that's another thing. If it's equals to 5, it's a matter. Otherwise, if anything what I pass like as a value is, if it's not validating and equating as true, then it's actually turning like David, right? If I pass 100, I will get 100. So whatever, like whenever like this, whatever the inputs I'm actually passing, if it's not actually equating, right, like one of the input, one of the rule, if it's actually equating one of the rule, it will return, right? So if I type 5, right? So this is how you do it. It's actually a simple decision rule, right? So this is easy, like just you could just configure them like 1, 2, 3 or something. Then you want to use it somewhere, right? For example, okay, I want to use it somewhere like so on the pros model, or like on the interface. If I pass that one, then it will give me the value, right? So to call, like I just show you here, just to call a constant, I use like a constant bank to call the rule, decision rule, right? So a rule object to this to call the rule object, I'm gonna use a rule bank, right? Rule bank, and I'm gonna use like test decision, right? So whatever I created, it will come here. Test decision here. If you see here in the input, I have like input 1, right? So I can pass like input 1 as like 1. What is the decision value right here, right? If I test this guy, I get like IMU, right? If I pass 4, again that's 0, right? If I pass 5, right? Kind of creating like, and if I pass 50, I get myself, right? So I just created this decision rule. So just you can make like 1,000 rows, right? So if this thing is match, right? For example, like you have 5 parameters, right? For example, assume like you are working on a dealership, right? And you have like a series of editions of like different vehicles, right? Specific vehicles, but it has a lot of feature, right? Assume like the first one is actually it has like a GPS, right? If the value first, like if the value is GPS, right? Actually, let me create one more. Let's do. Right, for example, like it has like a GPS and actually I want to just I want to type like, I want to make it like number. I want to change this to number. It's gonna be 50,000. Right. So they need if, for example, like if you want to buy a car, right? And you ask him, like, you go to the dealership and say, like, I need a GPS, a car. You can do, like, we can have, like, one more input, and then say, like, the name of the anyhow. Right. So just let me. Right there, it's gonna be 10K. Okay. Because I cover letter, like, it's gonna be one. So if they need, like, a GPS, right, and the value actually less than this, yeah, so this actually will validate, like, at least 3 of them, right? So let's say this, right? So it's gonna be source to validate that. So they need, like, a GPS, right, and the value, like, the input actually what we need is actually a car with 55,000 miles, right? Already on it, right? So, like, it's gonna validate and give us this is because what happened on this one? Anyone? Why I'm actually seeing this here? Because this is actually hitting, like, multiple press, right? So I just passed, like, GPS is actually true, and then this validated true, right? So 3 places are actually validating. So instead of GPS, so I will say all right, so GPS plus GPS 12 and right there GPS 6. It's fine. So if I type, like, GPS 55,000, right, so then I will validate and then get, like, 1,000, right, because it's not validating anything because there is no GPS. It's validated, like, through right here, but it's actually greater than 50,000. It's actually 55,000, right? If I make it actually 50,000, so it will validate the first one, right? So you go to the dealership and then ask, okay, I need, like, a GPS plus or something, and, like, I need like, you just give him, like, a lot of information, right? I need this the mileage on it is 10,000 and everything. So you're gonna put, like, all this information in front of you, and then, like, when he tested, and then finally you give you, like, the result, the amounts, effects. That's a kind of like a business rule is running on the back end, right? So this is how they do it, right? So they pass all the detail and information and something like that, then it will validate based on your selection, right? Based on your selection, you will gonna match in one of them, and finally it will give you the accurate result, right? So this is how they do this guy, right? All right. So now if I just type this, it will validate this guy and then get, like, the 40,000 result, right? So so this is the addition rule. So let me if you have any question, just please just forward it, so I can just give you, like, more explanation about it. So now I'm gonna test my expression rule, right? So as we said here, right, so expression is nothing, right? So expression is nothing. It's kind of like you can create your own function. You can create, like, multiple inputs as a parameter. You can pass them, and you can do, like, multiple calculation or kind of validation, like, in the data, and then finally you'll get some kind of output out of it, right? So an expression rule is a statement that evaluates and to return some kind of value, much like a spreadsheet function. So they are like stored expression that works like an Appian function, right? So they actually work as an Appian function. The only difference between the Appian function and the expression rule is you can create your own rule inputs. You can create your own expression to perform some kind of logic and then get some kind of desired result, right? So I'm gonna show you here expression. I just created like expression rule, like this expression rule. Just to create this expression rule, you just click on new and click expression rule, and it will give you two options, right? You can create from scratch. Most of in Appian, right? So when you create a design object, you have like create from scratch, or you can duplicate existing, right? So kind of instead of doing like multiple things, instead of do it like manually, from scratch, so you can actually copy the code from other rule, and you can manipulate those information as well. But like let's do because I don't know, like I don't have like any anything like to copy, so I want to create it from scratch. So I want to create from scratch and then create expression. It's always I just skip it now, but it's a best practice to have like a description about that specific object. All right, so now I have this function, right? Okay, so now like I have like some kind of requirement. Okay, so this guy, I have 1 plus 1 equals 2, right? I want to do like some calculation, right? So 1 plus 1 equals 2. So I want to actually do I want to create actually one expression rule to do sum of two numbers or sum of three numbers, like it. So three numbers you can do like multiple, right? Now like I want to actually create this guy, right? I want to do 1 plus 2. Appian will this expression actually do the mathematics and then give us like the result, right? So I want to use this guy just to sum two numbers, right? A simple example. Okay, so I want to create my function to sum two numbers, so I need two rule inputs. I want to pass one input, kind of number 1, right? Number 1 to the type is actually number, or it can be decimal, right? Number decimal, because like we can pass like some decimal number as well, right? Decimal, and I can create like number 2. It's gonna be number decimal as well. Right, number decimal. So now like I can pass like from here as I just see I can pass like my number right here as like 1 and 1, and instead of like here I can do is actually I can create like array bank. Array bank is nothing, a rule input, right? Rule input, this is rule input right here. If you see rule input, when I type like rule input bank, so from my rule inputs, just call my rule inputs. So I have like two rule inputs, number 1 and number 2. Number 1 plus array bank number 2. All right. So like if I just test this guy, now I get 2, right? If I pass 8 in number 2, it's gonna be 9, right? If I pass like on this guy like 1.78, I'll get 9.7 something, right? 9.78, right? So this is actually the I can on a fly, I just created my rule like just to add like to some like two numbers, and that's it, right? So I just created this guy, right? Now it's not fixed, right? So I just created this function, and in Appian so Appian has this function. Okay, let me comment that out. Okay, actually let me go here. Appian, you don't need to create that sum function, right? Just want to show you, right? But Appian has this sum function. if you type sum, Appian has a function like sum function, right? So we don't need to, right? So sum function, so you have to add two numbers, like for example, just pass like two numbers, right? 1 and 2. Right? It's kind of like you give you like the sum, like you're gonna pass the numbers, right? You're gonna pass the numbers and then we're gonna do the sum, right? So, but instead of passing this, okay, I want to do like I want to create my own sum function, right? So, you don't need to create like if Appian has such a kind of function, no, just use that, right? But if there is nothing, right, Appian can do for you, right? If you can't use an Appian function, so you can create your own function. So the same way, right, I created this guy, and I'm gonna call my rule as rule bank, right? Rule bank, and it's gonna be test expression, right? And here I have two rule inputs, right? Number 1 and number 2. What is the number 1 I wanna calculate, right? So I wanna do 0.7, comma, number 2. Whatever the number 2 I passed is actually 0.6, and click test. Right, Appian did the calculation and then give us the values actually out of it, right? So we don't need to do the calculation. So we can use this rule, right? We can create this rule and we can use it like anywhere we want it, right? So this is actually how you create expression rule, right? So you can create, this is just only for the sum number, right? But you can do like multiple calculation, multiple evaluation, multiple kind of mathematical conditions, as well as just complex logics. You can create it in expression. Finally, like whatever in that expression you're going to compute and then get the output, right? So whatever the output you get, and then you can use it somewhere else, right? You can use it like in a process model, or you can use it in an expression rule. You can use it like in anywhere, right? But this is expression rule. Just want to show you, but you can create as well as like if you want to sum up like 10 numbers, easy. Okay, you just create like number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 here, right? As many you want, right? So rule inputs, you can create a rule input, add them here, right? So array bank numbers, and number 3, right? Whatever the number 3 you have. Okay, so right, number 3 and number 3 have, right? I don't want to save it right now. But also, like, if you want to do some kind of logic, like, for example, like if you have this guy and then pass it as null, right? So, and then it gives some kind of, I want, right? Oh, it's running, right? Actually give me like a null, right? So we know like it should actually give us like at least 10,097, right? So that's actually kind of okay. My rule is not working, right? So in this way, like I kind of like more condition on it to identify and then say to return like the exact value or something, right? So here, for example, right, I can use like an Appian function here, like because that is actually like if I pass two numbers, but it's actually if it's null, it's actually give me, for example, like if I pass here, let's test this right here, right? So 1.78, but it's kind of like giving me null, right? So I should get like 1.78, right? Because number 1 is number 2, but the difference is actually it's trying to add one number and one is null value, right? Any empty value then actually get us like a null value. So in this case, like somebody may not actually passing anything on this one. So to handle this, so we can add like more condition on this expression, right? So for example, like there's a Appian function, there's a default value. If nothing passed, default value is doing nothing, but like from the name, like it's a default value. If number 1 is not passed, just pass 0, right? Same thing I'm gonna do for the number 2 as well, a bank default value, and then I'm gonna pass 0, right? So now if I just test this guy, I should get like 1.78. All right. Yeah, now I'm getting like 1.78, because if it's null, it's actually adding 0. So whatever the value plus 0, right? So you get some value. So you can save this guy. So you can do like a lot of logics like based on this, but this is right there, right? So it's actually giving me like now previously was null, but it's actually giving this compensation computational and then give us this outcome, right? All right, any question, guys? Any question for rule input, expression, decision, or something? All right. Okay. If you don't have any questions, so the other actually not I'm gonna actually cover this especially like on your preparation, just because we're not actually kind of like connecting to different system, but what is actually integration object, right? In Appian, right? Sorry. So here, when you create like a new object, so you see them like here as on the green, right? So the connect system integration and web APIs, right? This green is actually we call them like an integration object, right? So from the name, it's actually will help us to connect with the external system, right? When we want to integrate our data, right, our information in Appian to SharePoint or to Salesforce or some kind of some kind of like external application. And if you want to read something from Salesforce, SharePoint, or any application, right? So this is actually how we are actually achieving it, right? So anything like you do like on this side, it's kind of like inside Appian, right? You can create a interface, you can create a report site and everything. Expression is kind of like only inside this Appian. But if whatever I did, whatever I do, like some kind of data manipulation, I want to actually connect my Appian application with external system, right? Whatever the data SharePoint I have, I want to read from there, right? I want to get information from SharePoint, manipulate it or something, right? Or also like I want to like push whatever the update I want to push to external system like Java application, SharePoint, or Salesforce, right? This is actually where we're actually going to integrate, right? So the connect system integration and web API, right? So we're gonna cover like this one, like once I want to actually don't want to give you the match on this guy, but this is mainly like I just want you to go through all the documentation. Kind of like when you're actually senior or something, you are actually responsible for working on this stuff. But if you are actually a junior developer or something, it's not required. Even like on your interview preparation, just I was actually suggesting my students as well, right? If they ask you about like corner system integration and web API, so the simple answer is gonna be, yeah, I never work from scratch, but I actually work where I see like whatever the developers do, and then I just updated some simple fix, right? So that way, like you can avoid from like, because there is kind of like Tapian kind of complex logic comes on this side, right? Especially like when you're actually starting Appian. It's doing nothing, right? So let's discuss on it, right? So integration objects. So whenever an application is like to interact with a third-party tool, right? When the third-party system or vice versa, right? So either like ongoing information or ingoing, right? Outgoing and ingoing. So developers can use as many as the 3 different types of objects: an integration object, a connect system, or a web API, right? So these are actually the 3 objects we are using to just communicate with external system, right? Third-party system. So what is the difference between like connect system, integration, and web API, right? So all these integration objects, we are using them to connect to third party, right? So but all these have like a specific the three objects all have like actually specific specific use, right? A connect system makes like it's easy to connect to database, right? Or it can be easily connect to external application, SharePoint or something. So it will help us to, they provide a kind of like a central location to store authentication detail, right? So if you want to pass, the first thing you do, like to connect to Appian, right? Or the first thing you do to connect to SharePoint or Salesforce, any kind of application, the first page it will ask you is actually username and password, right? You have to authenticate. So in Appian, just to from Appian to external system, first I need to authenticate. So this is actually a central place for me, right? So connect system is actually a central place for me to store the authentication detail, right? So just to get the authorization, right? So first I want to authorize myself, right? I want to authorize Appian to access information from Salesforce. So using the connect system, I can create a connect system, store some authentication detail, and the connection information. Number of authentication types can be leveraged by using like connect system. So let me show you something here. Just we don't. So you can create like in a connect system, right? So now when you create like connect system, it will give us like a lot of things, right? So I can connect Appian through like all this application. Okay, I can actually create like through OpenAI or through OpenAPI, HTTP, right? So any kind of application, right? Java application or any kind of application with the HTTP response, I can create with this one, right? If I want to get some kind of information about Amazon machine learning, right? So I wanna use the Amazon machine learning feature, right? So whatever this AI skill, right? AI skill from the whatever the machine learning they have on Amazon, I can just click on this guy and then create connect to Amazon machine learning, right? If I want to Appian 3D converter CS, if I want to like Aurora MySQL database, there is a lot of database connect system. So the reason actually they removed the data store is because they give us like a lot of connect system to connect to external database, right? So we can connect to Aurora MySQL database, Postgres database. If just for if you have any bots, robots, right? Robot task for the Blue Prism, you can click. You can connect with the Blue Prism as well. Any custom JDBC data source, right? MySQL, SQL or anything, but if you have like any kind of custom connect string, right? It's not supported database system, you can create like custom, and then you type the custom data types there, and then you can connect, right? So there is a lot of like application Appian just create that connect system, so it's automatically custom Snowflake's data source, DB2 data source like DocuSign if you want to incorporate the DocuSign, right? So you can DocuSign is nothing, right? So but you can sign the document using a DocuSign application. Gen AI tool, email generator, right? You can use like Gen AI tool to generate an email from Appian. Google Cloud Natural Language, right? Google Cloud Transition, Google Cloud Vision, Google Drive. We can use like Google Map. We can connect to Google Maps and then incorporate when we build our interface to display the Google Map information. We can connect to Google Map and then do that as well. Google reCAPTCHA, just for authentication purpose, it's actually help us for to identify like if you remember, like if you think of like when you add username and password, they ask you to check from the image, right? Select which one is actually there, which one is a motorbike or something, right? When you log into your Gmail or something, right? So that's kind of like information, like if you want before accessing information, if you want to know like if that person is a human or a robot, so you can use the Google reCAPTCHA feature and you can connect it from there, right? So you can connect to MariaDB, it's one of the database system as well, like in Microsoft Azure, right? Any Azure application, Microsoft Dynamics. There's a lot of like connect system. So if you want this actually is not as a requirement, right? As a requirement, they want to configure and they want to actually connect to Salesforce, right? So they want to read some information to Salesforce or SharePoint, right? So I'm gonna pick like one of them, right? So when we create, right, you just click on it. For example, I want to create, I want to connect to SharePoint. So these are actually the all the connect systems have like a different source, different inputs, right? For example, like for this Salesforce, I'm gonna type the connect system right there that required, and the authentication type, right? So username and password authentication, right? So there is web server authentication. Like there is two methods of username and password authentication, right? You're gonna pass the URL, instant URL. This URL is nothing but where the Salesforce is actually resides, right? So you're gonna type that, your instance.salesforce.com, the client ID. The Salesforce team, they're gonna provide you the client ID. The client secret is actually the password, right? And the username and password. So whatever this like token, like all this information, you'll get it from the Salesforce team. And once you've done that, once all that information, then you're gonna test your connection, and it will help you. It will authorize you, right? So once you have that authentication, so you can use this connect system to to connect to the Salesforce, right? The first thing is actually because we need some kind of authorization to access Salesforce. All right. So if you like, that's like for SQL, right? It's different like for each application, for each connect system. Like for Salesforce, you see like client side ID or something, right? For example, like let's see like SharePoint, right? In SharePoint, it's just you can pass the instance URL for SharePoint, the tenant ID in the Azure, the client secret. That's it. Like we don't need like username and password there, right? And then you can authorize it. So application ID, tenant ID, and the client secret. So once you have those and then you authorize, you are good to connect with SharePoint. All right. So I want to give you like one example. Just maybe let me see which one. Maybe SQL Server, right? Let's connect to SQL Server. So on the SQL Server, you need to have like username and password to authenticate, right? And then we're gonna pass the connection URL, right? So whatever like JDBC SQL your server name or something, right? Like just like this, right? And then you're gonna pass username and password, just this connection. Then we can directly connect to our SQL Server model. All right. So this is a connect system. So this is how you are actually connecting to Appian, like how you actually store those authorization, like authentication. So a connect system makes it's kind of makes them like a central place to store authentication detail and the connection information. But what is integration, right? So integration can be used to call external system and web service from Appian, right? So we can call like any integration object to push some data or like to get some information from external system. Integration can be called like in an expression. So we can call them like an expression interface web API in a process model, either like to query or modify data in the external system, right? So either like to pull information, like to pull is nothing like to query information, right? To, for example, send me 5 orders, the recent orders on Salesforce, right? I kind of like query Salesforce, whatever the information on the Salesforce, I can execute that integration, get that data, and then store it in just pull it in Appian. Or like I wanna update the 5 orders, the last 5 orders in Salesforce. I wanna update those information based on this data. So we can update that using this integration object. So they can inherit like connection detail from actually connect system. So we can when we create actually connect system, like for example, like I created a connect system to store authorization, like authentication for Salesforce, right? So and I want to update like, or I want to query some information from Salesforce using integration object. So I don't need to pass again, right? So when you create like integration, I don't need to pass like username and password, but I can inherit, like I can pass the connect system inside. So I can inherit the connection detail, like the username and password, everything from the connect system. So I can use that from there, right? So here, if I want to create something, let me go out. Just connect system, you can create the connect system here. But if you want to create like integration object, right? So this integration is you can pass the connect system here from here, or if you don't have a connect system, you can create it from the from scratch. But if I already have like connect system, I pass whatever the connect system I created. for example, connect to the system to connect to Salesforce. So automatically, whatever the authentication details stored on the connect system will be inherited and used by this integration object. But if I want to create from scratch, HTTP only, right? So I can create this guy as well, test integration. Just to show you here, so testing integration, and I need to create this integration object. I need to pass the I need to pass the URL where to integrate, like if the Salesforce or something, I need to pass there. Authentication method, like if do I need like a basic or none, right? So kind of like I need like username and password, right? Username and password. I need to pass the username and password to connect. But if I use the connect system, automatically inherit from the connect system. But if I want to do it from scratch, I will need to pass the URL, username and password, and the methods, right? So I want to get information from external system, like query information from the system. I can post, right, put, patch. So these are all the options. Here's delete, trace. All these are like kind of like an option you have to use the integration object, right? So mostly we are using like get and post. Get is just to query the information. Post is for modifying object, right? So delete just for delete. Patch just kind of like post. Same thing, right? But most of the time, like we use like get and post. These are the methods, like when you are actually creating an integration object, and we can still like do like a lot of stuff here just to connect to, but I don't want to go to that. So we'll have some discussion later. All right, about web API, right? So the third Appian object, design object, is actually a web API. So web API provides a way to expose an Appian endpoint to an external system, right? When a client makes an HTTP request to the given URL, right? So the associated expression, the expression is executed, and the result is returned to the client. So web APIs can be used to push data to Appian, to pull data from Appian, and even to initiate Appian processes. All right. So this is kind of like, for example, we have like this applicant table, right? So applicant category and everything, right? So from the Salesforce team, right? So they ask us to get all the detail from the database, right? From only for vendor information, vendor applicant. So I can create like some endpoints for them to access that specific table, right? Appian ላይ ያለችውን የአፕሊካንት ቴብል ብቻ information መስጠት ፈልግ, I will get them like a path, right? Just a path, like kind of like an endpoint. When they just request, so they're gonna touch that endpoint. So they're gonna request with that endpoint. So that endpoints with the web API provides a way to expose an API endpoints to an external system, right? So ያንን endpoint like expose ልናደርገው የምንችለው through web API ነው. So I can create a web API, create a URL like an endpoint for the user. So when the users like use that URL or endpoint, so they can access some information, right? So we can create a web API for the user. Like for example, like I want to expose my information, my Appian application information to SharePoint. I can create like a web API to export that specific information, and then send them that URL, username and password, so they can actually authenticate from there and then access our information. And also like there is a lot of ways, right, to so I can just send them to pull that data from Appian, or send data from Appian, send Appian read information Appian, or send data from Appian to external system, as well as like we can by exposing that some endpoint, we can also initiate Appian processes, right? So we can like the way like I created like I created a vendor, right? So we can create a vendor like with, for example, like in Salesforce, they want to create a new vendor. So I can give them that endpoint. So they will send the information like first name and last name and everything. And then they pass that information through that endpoint. I can initiate a process from automatically and then insert that information to my vendor applicant. So the way, kind of like APIs a best place, best design object to work. Like for example, like if you have any kind of exposing any things, right? So like when you create like an API, web API, so there is a lot of templates you can do, right? So if you wanna, for example, like basic one, right? Hello world, JSON, XML, right? So document, like for example, CSV download, right? Any kind of like CSV download document download APIs, right? If you wanna give them, the ability to download CSV file or document files from there, so we can, create from template, or we can create from scratch. We can create write our own code. For example, we can query some database, right? So, for example, applicant table, vendor applicant table, and then show them, right? We can query data store as well in data table. So let me show you here one of them, like maybe just query data table. So it will automatically give us test query data table, right? And it's kind of like a getty. You see the method is actually get queried because I'm calling, and I'm gonna pass the endpoint here. I'm gonna use just data query. That's fine. And enable HTTP is fine. So I'm gonna create this record type. So which record type, right? So yeah, because I wanna show them with vendor applicants. We'll search here. So it's gonna actually create a web API for me, and then it's, for example, like this guy, and I'm gonna create my web API, right? So this web API is automatically secured. So I just created my first web API. So using this web API, so it's doing nothing. It's actually running, it's creating some kind of logic on the backend, saying just query this guy, query type this from record type, and pass that information, right? Just whatever the data we have, right? So if you test this guy, so it's automatically give me the information we have, right? So in the form of JSON, right? In the form of JSON. So if anyone like just try to access this web API with endpoint, we can get this information and they can just manipulate from there, right? But here, like I just, by creating like this web API, I just created an endpoint, right? So here, like US Appian Suite web API data query, right? So I want to expose this information. Then like Salesforce team, I want to read data, from the vendor applicants. So I'm gonna share this URL for them, right? This is the endpoint I created for you, right? This is the endpoint I created for you. You can just to land on this query. You just land first, like you need to access this endpoint, and then also like I will give you a secret pass, right? Kind of like we can create like a secret key for them, so they need to set up that. So based on that secret key, so they can authorize, they will be authorized to access this information, right? So this is the web API thing, right? So web API is nothing, just this kind of creating an endpoint to external system, right? Also most of the application also external application, they created an endpoint for you, like an API endpoint. We can access that endpoint from Appian as well, right? So it's a way of actually that's the web API. It's kind of like a REST API we are using. Actually, kind of like a modern way of communicating between these different application, right? So sometimes we use connect system. Most of the time we use like web API to connect with the external system. Also, we can sometimes use like integration based on the requirement, right? So based on the supported method, right? So based on supported method ከሶስት አንዱ መርጠን ፒያናችንን ከተለያየ ቦታዎች ጋር ኢንተግሬት ማድረግ እንችላለን ማለት ነው። Any question, guys? Vehicle, I know it's too much, right? አላችሁ guys?
አለን።
Okay. ብቻዬን እየለፈለፍኩ እንዳይሆን ብዬ ነው። ይሄ ሪከርዲንግ እኮ እንትን ይላል ያሰንፋል። ሪከርዲንጉን በኋላ ቼክ አደርገዋለሁ ብላችሁ። Alright. Anyhow, so yeah, maybe do you have any question for me? Think it's too much information. Is like kind of like 2 slides no cover area, but it's a lot of concepts inside these two. I want to go like this, but like we covered like most of these 2 guys. Like group object is nothing. Group it will allow us like for developers to organize user, right? Group type is also same thing, but it's kind of like will help us to organize our groups, right? We can create like a group type, and then under that group type we can create like different groups, right? So groups for Eastern America, group type for Eastern America and West America, right? So based on that group type, you can create vendor applicant for Eastern, vendor applicant for West, something, right? So group types actually help us to create. So most of the time, like most in the application, in a real world application or project, we are not actually using like group types. So most of the time we are using like custom. So mainly focus on the groups, right? So groups, when you create a user, so it will help us to organize all the users, usually for the purpose of like determining what permission they have to design. So we use like groups mainly for just securing design objects as well as securing our site. In addition, like tasks, news, entries can be targeted to 1 or more groups, right? So if I want to send email to some specific group, then just I'm gonna target 1 group and then send that update, right? Right. So this group. So how to we can create like groups and then manage all users. And the content management. I covered this as well, right? This is nothing like content management object is nothing. It's actually Appian folders, right? So I spent like a lot of time on this one on the couple of session, right? So Appian has like a robust content management framework that allows developers to store and organize Appian application objects, right? Content, whatever the content. For document management, there are 3 specific objects involved, right? Discussing that like Appian የተለያዩ like design objects አሉ። process object, rule object ምናምን የምላቸው, right? Process model, they whenever we create like process model, we're actually storing them like in the process model folder. Like there is a folder for the process model for all the rules, right? When you create like expression rule, decision rule, or something, right? So rules folders can be stored following design objects like constant, expression rule, interface, decision, integration, rule folder, right? All these rule folders, all these objects will be stored like on this rule folder object, rule folders. But if you have like 3, this 3 is kind of like for all the document management, there are like 3 specific objects involved. One is a knowledge center. It's a root. Knowledge center is nothing. It stores a document and document folder. It's kind of like a root folder, right? The root folder for all, right? For all documents, the whole document, root folder, no knowledge center. But you can store directly a document inside the knowledge center, or also you can create like a document folder inside knowledge center, right? So there is a document folder. That's a document folder is nothing. It's actually a folder. It's not a folder. So you can create like a subfolder for each, right? So document folders can contain a document as well as other document folders, like subfolders and create document folders can only be created within a knowledge center, right? So document folder, like that's why like we need actually knowledge center, right? So we can create like a document folder by its own, but at least we need to have at least 1 knowledge center, kind of like a root folder. That once we have that, so we can create like document folders inside the knowledge center or within another document folders. Document is nothing, right? So it's Excel, PDF, or something, right? So it's a document list of file. Is a document a file stored in Appian. Appian provides a management system or document, right? So Appian has a good actually content management so document is part of it. So document is it can be image, it can be PDF, it can be anything, right? All right, guys. Do you have any question? So So next time, I think when we jump, so I'm gonna share this to you. Just this nothing is security. How we are actually storing, right? How actually security inherited by object, right? When you create like a document in process report, right? Always inherit security from parent. Like whenever like we select a parent, so actually getting security out of it always, right? So we can't set up the document security or a process report security. Always inherit security if parent is specified. Like if you specify a parent, then automatically whatever the security we configured on the parent, it will be automatically going to the groups and knowledge center, right? This set of like groups, set of the objects like inherit security from parent by default, right? So by default, but you can still like editable, so we can avoid and then add like document folders, rule folders, constant, decisions, expression or something, right? And never inherit security, right? እነዚህ ኦብጀክቶች ደግሞ ሴኩሪቲ ከፓረንት ፕሮሰሳቸው ኢንሄሪት አድርገው የማይቁጠሙ like application process model folders, process models, data objects, record types, reports, sites, feeds, web API, and connect system. እነዚህ like they don't inherit the security out of it. Don't have a security, CDT ነበር አንደኛው, it's gone, right? So but now it's a group type, still group type allen. So group like they don't have a security. So these two objects actually don't have a security in Appian. Yeah, so next time we're gonna jump in here and then like discuss more about like I will spend like maybe 20-30 minutes on user groups objects, so sorry, like group and user management, just to give you like some idea, and we'll start just working on our application as well. Any question? If you have any question, just please forward it. If not, I will stop my recording and